Hey guys, I really should go to sleep. Uh, it's like 4 a.m., but I kind of can't contain myself. So it's just gonna be me rambling, so it doesn't, there's probably nothing important or useful in this video. Um, but I thought it would be good to just let things out. I feel like we are witnessing history, and it's a surreal feeling. Like we, there will be tomes written about this period in history. Um, like we had three or four limit ups or limit downs in the past 2 weeks. I've read extensively, I would say, on market history, going all the way back to 1900. There was, I read about um, how, like, from the bear market, there was a book called The Anatomy of the Bear by Russell Napier, which details all the bear markets in the past from 1907 to we had one in like 1929 obviously, and then we had in 1970s, and then 2000 and 2008, and obviously so all these great bear markets. And when you see these things written on paper, they would just say market gapped down 6%, and another day market gap down 10%. And I still remember fairly vividly on there was a description that in 1907 market would gap down tens of points, and there was very little volume, and there was talks on the newspaper about um, how the selling was exhausted and all that things. And it is very difficult to have a visceral understanding of what that means when you live through it. And for me, it is somewhat exciting. It, oh yeah, everything's okay. I'm just having some, I don't know, thoughts. Yo, Mister Bump. Yes. Yes, I was just talking to him, and I just feel like we had this crazy volatility of over the last 2 weeks. We had 10% ups and 10% followed by 10% downs, and then we have leaders of the country catching a virus, and there is entire countries being locked down, and at the same time we have an election going on, and both candidates are like 70 plus, 77 years old, and who knows whether they're gonna last until the end of their term. And in China, we have a concentration of power regressing into more, closed China, reversing the opening up that's happened since 1987. Sorry, 1978. So the whole globalization may be breaking up. It's all very exciting. The history moves slowly, but I feel like there might be a lot of pain. There will be a lot of pain involved in this period, but not everyone gets to witness that, I suppose. But I guess every generation has their exciting moments. I think we're at the beginning of it. Um, if you're born in 1900, you would come of age when Hitler comes into power, and you would experience two world wars, and then you would experience the glorious moment of U.S. that saved the world and to save the world again, and you would witness the rise of American power until which I would say peaked around the 1960s. And then you have all this crazy Soviet crap, but which I never get to experience. I was born in '89 when Tiananmen Square, well, just a few days after Tiananmen Square event happened. Very few people in China that was born after 1990 know that event. People here just it's just like they're cut off from the world mostly. They don't know um they don't know their history. And I think like there's a lot of parallels you can draw between this period and probably 1929. The stock market valuation is very high at the moment. Well, in February it was higher than in 1929 for sure. And also like in terms of laissez-faire, well, I wouldn't say Trump was too much of a laissez-faire guy, but we had some great bull market in 1920s. We had 10 years of great bull market here. And yeah, it's quite crazy. It's quite crazy. Anyways, let's see what comments there are, and if there's nothing I need to answer, I'll just go back to sleep. History was made. Indeed, a history was made, and history is being made now. And maybe I should write a diary, and then one day somebody will interview me on like, oh, what was your experience during the tumultuous days in the early 2020s? It'd be crazy. Greetings from Greece. Stay strong. Yes. Greetings from China. I hope everybody will keep safe and just don't die. And what else? Is China not pushed back? I don't know what that means, but China's definitely set back. Dude, you don't supposed to know about that. No, I'm not supposed to know about many things, but I do. It's the unfortunate life of someone that seeks information. Do you think we can trust China's? No, obviously not. What are you talking about? Of course not. But you can't trust China's infection numbers, but you can trust China's actions. Okay? So when China tells you they have 80,000, I wouldn't be surprised if we had 1 million. Judging by the scale of drastic action that was taken here. The government in China does tend to go overboard, but I would not say that they would go overboard that much. So, and there's different ways you can deduce it. So my own number that I deduce from different evidence is that Wuhan had at least 30,000 deaths alone in China. Sorry, not 30,000 deaths. I meant what was it? Damn it, I forgot the number, but it was a very high number. It was greatly exceeding the capacity of the city to deal with the dead. Think about that, right? So inflate the number all you want, but China is definitely more under control than the rest of the world, and not because we have special powers, but because there's resources spent on it, there's sacrifices being made. Born in the Soviet Union in '85 here, first thing I remember was war, which still hasn't ended. Well, that's unfortunate. War is not conducive to money making. US market still has a bit high based Schiller P. Yes, US market is still on the high end. A lot of people don't have a perspective, especially people that the Robin Hood crowd. There was talks about bottom fishing just 2 weeks ago when the crash happened. I'm like, they have no perspective of history. They have no idea how far and how deep and how long bear markets can last. We were measuring years, not in weeks or days. I mean, it's just they have been experiencing, a lot of them have been experiencing nothing but up markets, which is the same experience of me. I mean, I have experienced nothing other than up markets. But one has to read history, and especially if you're investing, read financial history and find out what has happened, what could happen, what situation might have led to this event, and also like how one can protect oneself and what are the signs of a bottom of a market. These are all things that unfortunately we don't have many samples of, but I would say it's better to know than not to. Would you send your children to Chinese public school? Political bias brainwash? I would send my children to Chinese public school probably. Um, I don't really care about the political bias. What I really do mind is the lack of independent thinking. That is what I think is. I mean, what are you gonna take away from this world? I mean, you're gonna die eventually, and if your thoughts are not your own, if you can't see from different perspectives, then what's the point, right? It's just. Have you increased your position in Greece? No, I haven't. Oh, in Greece, yeah. No, I haven't. I actually lowered my position in Greece in the I don't know when, but when their PE, their TTMP hit 15, I unloaded 20%. My plan was, well, my plan was to reduce it by 20% until it goes to 20. The PE goes to 20, but it never hit 16, so I just unloaded 20%, and then it kind of just fell back down to now like 12 PE. This is the time to come together, but keep a distance at the same time. This is history. Yes, this is history. This is gonna be crazy. We're gonna be reading history books about our lives. It's insane. Is there a word on the future of the wet market? I don't know what wet market is. Do you think China becomes the next Japan? Do you think so the whole world becomes next Japan? Aging population, low inflation, high government debt. I think China becomes Japan. I think China wants to become Japan. I think they don't mind becoming Japan rather than the other way, which is probably in an actual collapse. Yeah, I think they'd rather become Japan. Senor, buenas tardes. Sure, thank you. I should sleep. The Robin Hood crowd. Yes, the Robin Hood crowd. The Robin Hood crowd had their cookie taken away from them for 2 days out of the 2 weeks, which is kind of funny. I cannot but feel a bit of Schadenfreude. Schadenfreude? Freude, yes, Schadenfreude. There are many falling knives these days. Time to cash? No, probably summer. No, not now. I think there are two waves. The first wave is the coronavirus. The second wave is a recession. There'll be a recession. The recession, I don't know what is going to happen with recession. The central bank may do something. The government may take some Keynesian approach. It just, who knows how long it's going to last, but it's coming. It is definitely coming this year. If you make sure you don't cut yourself with falling knives, I thought that okay, that's a joke. Even I can get that. Trump admitting coronavirus could go longer. Yes, market propped up by people who think it's a short-term thing. Wrong, and yeah, it's yeah. And let's FOMC conference call yesterday, if I understand correctly, as long as inflation is low, this one we will keep doing on QE. Probably we won't have it very long. Well, QE is just what's gonna happen is they're gonna lower the yield on bonds, on government bonds, and only as a side effect. Okay, so if you believe in the CAPM, the capital asset, damn it, what was the name? Essentially, the model that predicts asset prices. There are two factors that goes into asset price calculation. One is the risk-free rate, which the Fed can influence. The other one is the equity risk premium. And if the risk premium increases due to fear, even if you have a lowering interest-free rate, you can still have a lowering prices in lowering equity prices. It's great if you still buy. Yeah, I mean, like, the Chinese is gonna drink their milk. They're paying 8%, so long term you're gonna get. Well, they now pay like 10. Long term, there is not much change. Chinese is gonna drink their milk. Even if China turns into Japan, the Japanese are still drinking milk. Schadenfreude, fast perfekte Ausgesprochen. Okay, that's the extent. Stay safe and stay awesome. Need to go. Bye, Señor Puente. The wet market is a market where all kinds of wild animals sold in Wuhan. Oh, the wet market. It's not actually called the wet market. It's called the seafood market. The wet market. I don't know. They took it apart. They're disassembling it, not disassembling. Are central banks over? I don't know. I don't know if central banks are overreacting, but they are certainly reacting. And even after their zealous reaction, we still have a 12% down day or something like that. Yes, capital asset pricing model. Yes, CAPM. Yes, that. Don't even remember that name. Thanks. I think that's Mr. Alejandro Simonidis. Sounds Eastern European, but I can't tell. Are you waiting until summer to start buying long-term positions? I'm buying very little now. I bought some bonds recently that's maturing. There's a bond called SBNA, and it's basically a bond on Scorpio tankers. And the thing is maturing in May, middle of May. And Scorpio tankers is a tanker company. And with the oil price war and the production glut, well, all their ships are gonna end up as a floating storage. So, and you can see that in the daily rate is going pretty high, and they have about 200 million in cash versus 200 like 20 or 30 million in short term, like the current portion of the long term debt, which the SBNA is part of. So I bought a bunch of that, and then you get, I don't know, close to 2% until May, and at this time, that seems a pretty good return to me. So I bought a bunch of those shit. Do you expect China valuation to increase relative to US over the next year? Yes, relative to US, yeah, very likely. China's pretty cheap. China's been cheap since 2015. Well, 16. China's been cheap. US has not been cheap for and well since 2016. So, any thoughts about the oil war? Well, I think it's gonna last pretty long. On one side, you got Russians that has a very low debt GDP, close to $500 billion in reserves, and their largest companies can produce at cash costs of $10. I mean, Gazprom Neft produces at $10. So okay, and then you have the Saudis, which have what sub single digit cost, but then they have armies of princes to feed. In China, what we call this is 神仙打架,凡人遭殃, which means like you have like these. I don't know how to translate it. Doesn't matter. What else? Do you see a 15% and the rates being set as a contract? Yeah, is oh, my thumbnail's scary. I don't know. I look scary a lot of times. Sometimes my hair explode, and people think that I've been electrocuted. Uh, is China one of the safest countries? There is no safest country to invest now. China is gonna be um, well, two things happening here, probably counteracting each other. One is there's going to be some stimulus coming in. They want 5.6% GDP growth. On the other hand, you've got a global recession at hand, and nobody enters a global recession or leaves a global recession unscathed. Do you see a drop? Be a drop in tanker rate, but the tanker rate doesn't need to be high. They just need to be not low, and then SBNA will just pay their bond, and I'll take my 2% and run away. Any chance of private? No chance of privatization. Don't even think about it. Does not happen at all for state-owned enterprises. Of all seafood markets, no, seafood markets will be open. There are plenty of seafood markets around, and not all of them sell wild animals. That is an exception, not a norm, in China. If you go to seafood markets, you typically just see seafood. You don't see like, I don't know, whatever shit they were selling. When did you sell your stock positions? Well, I sold a lot of mine on the 24th or 5th. So that was after I made my video on COVID-19. And then I was like, nah, this thing's gonna go much worse. So I just sold the bunch back then. What do you think about virus impact China GDP gonna to be? Well, real impact probably, you know, down. It's gonna cut like 5-6% at least out of China's GDP. Electricity and all that kind of stuff. So, 1.5 capacity, and now you have like probably still a bit of reduced capacity, and I would say maybe we're 80-85% recovered from the lows, maybe. But then there will, towards the latter half of this year, we're gonna end up with crazy stimulus. Any speculation ideas recently? Speculation, buy silver. Silver has dropped crazy today. Don't know if they're gonna stay that low. Any comments on BYD given the fact that I don't like BYD either. Not that they are making electric cars. I don't really care about electric cars that much. I mean, I'm fine with Porsche or even GM or whatever. The thing is, BYD can't seem to focus on anything. They're always chasing the next big hot thing. And that usually that big hot thing is they're trying to sell that to the government. And not a big fan. Don't like them. And also they're pretty short on cash from the way I can see. Good luck trying to find wild animals in the middle of Shanghai. No, there aren't any. Um, Not probably even dead ones in the middle of Shanghai. Actually, that's not true. There might be some dead ones on people's tables, something like that. Silver is definitely more industrial. No, I completely agree. That's why I don't think silver is inflation. Well, silver is not a good store of value. People just asked whether there's a good speculation idea. Well, silver is a speculation idea. If you lose money, don't blame me because I'm. Well, I actually did place an order of about $5,000, but didn't execute. So I don't have any silver ETFs. So I was trying to buy DBS, but I do have 3 or 4 bricks of silver at home. So not at home at home. I stored them, but they're very heavy. And then once I dropped one of them, they made a huge hole on my floor. I think that damage was quite visible. All right. Thanks for coming in, and let's witness history. And bye.